Hi, everybody.
Wow. We're the Beanie Babies today
I think that's something completely different. I don't
because
think
we're wearing our beanies.
that.
Works. You can call us that.
Well, I'm in Colorado. In Colorado, we had snow, so I definitely in the right beanie hat location.
It's about 45 where I'm at. I feel like I qualify for a
Okay.
beanie.
I don't know. It's kind of actually warmer today than it's been in California.
I don't know.
63 where I'm at.
So it looks like 35
But
here.
it was like 40 degrees when I woke up and worked out. So that's when the beanie went on the head. Being the initial beanie wearer.
The trendsetter.
And it's only because it matched my socks. To me, that's why. Because it matched my socks. Okay. All right, all you guys out there, those of you who watch, please join in the conversation before we get going. Also, subscribe, like, all of that good stuff for us. Please show us your support. On the other, also, while we are doing this, we would love for you to join in the convo. We're monitoring chats. We want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, anything, please throw that in the chat there, and we will happily address them, talk to you. Just say hi if you want. And I think that's all from me right now.
What are we talking about today?
I have no idea.
Abundance. Less is more, right? Is that it?
Less is more. How to do less and achieve more.
Mhm.
How to do less and achieve more. How is that possible? Can you do that? Is it?
See, commonly you think when you do more things, then you can achieve more things. But that seems to be not the case.
Not
You can do too many things and have an inverse relationship when you do less overall or achieve
I mean,
less.
it's not always the case. We're not going to say it is never the case, right? We're not going to say that. I mean, you certainly have to sometimes add some stuff in the mix on occasion. But I think what is more grossly overlooked is the thought of do less. Why aren't you doing less? There's a lot of things rolling around through my head, but before I run through there, what are your thoughts in this space? Any guy, any of you?
I think that's enough to be said on that topic, and we can end the live there.
We just are gonna do less.
In the spirit of doing less.
You're definitely doing less.
Well, I mean, like the reason why this is even a topic is because there is an inverse relationship between the amount of work somebody can actually do or effort that they can put into something and the results that they're going to get. You can overwork yourself to death. And many, like if you just take like workplace culture, for example, I've worked at plenty of places where the mindset was doing more means achieving more, and that meant working people to death. Which, if you look at Amazon now, Amazon's projected to not have any more people to hire in the country because they've overworked their, I guess, labor market too much.
They're getting ready to lay off too.
Yeah, I think they're laying off like 10,000 people.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So they've done to the point where they shot themselves in the foot, and now they're deciding to do less by having less people overall. But that was entirely caused by, overworking, their staff too much. So there's an example right there of there is such a thing as too much.
I think that's what you're even sharing though is even almost taking it to an extreme too. I think there's a couple of really good examples. So one of them was I wish I could give you a visual example. They had a cube, essentially. It was like a little house that was made out of Legos, right? And the little house had a little structure. So, I mean, I can draw this really quick for you. So, hopefully, you guys understand this once I'm done drawing it. I just hold on. Maybe I can't draw it really quick. Maybe.
Well, while you're doing that, I can. You know what? Part of this is we're talking about doing more, doing less, and what does all that mean? And even in the coaching world, most of us are used to, on the outside world of coaching, we're used to working really hard, like Anthony's speaking about, those long hours, those just continually working concepts, that when we get into coaching, we're saying you're going to do a whole lot less. You're not going to be the one performing in this space. It's going to be your client that has more to do than you have to do. All right, looks like Brooke got her.
You can't see it. Okay, so there's this little structure, and this is there's an opening here. So this big thing is open, okay? And there's a little door. It's a little house, right? And there's this little block on it, and this thing needs to lie flat on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to come down and lay flat. So what would you guys do to make sure that this thing laid flat on this, something that's got a little thing projecting out of this corner above?
Remove the extra block.
Oh, you know the answer, Anthony.
I don't know the answer.
Well, it depends on the material.
Well, there's a couple of options, right?
Legos.
There's a
Lego.
couple options. Is that block serving a purpose? So I might have to investigate that first.
It's a Lego.
Oh, it's a Lego. Oh, okay. I was like thinking, is it wood? Is it metal? Okay, all right.
Get rid of that top block.
It's a Lego. Okay.
90% of people, their first inclination is to add 3 more blocks. 1, 2, 3. Add 3 more blocks so that then it'll lay.
Uh-huh.
10% of people think to take this Lego away,
Uh-huh.
and then it will lay flat.
I'm the 10%.
We're just naturally inclined to be additive. That just is our nature. We just want to add. Also, I suggest watching our Feel and Friction. That this is another thing that we've done that sort of speaks a little more into this as well. Top 10%, Anthony. Hi, Misha. Good to see you.
That also means I just didn't do the research. I didn't see that you posted this somewhere.
Cheater. The other example too, or not example. So, I mean, before we move on from that, what do you think that means? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that? Any thoughts on why we might do that?
I want to say we're kind of conditioned to believe to accomplish something, you have to go forward instead of take away. I guess.
And taking away feels like going backwards.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You need to put in effort to achieve your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, right? All of these, and what we're talking about kind of feels like Jerome said, in antithesis, like, oh, do less. But the truth is, it can make the biggest difference in the world with regard to time. And so before we move into that, I have one more question for you. Let's say you guys have a bank account. Now that I know you guys didn't do the research, let's say you guys have a bank account.
I watched it.
This bank account, it's a bank account. It fills up to $5,000 every day.
Okay.
Every single day.
Okay.
You get $5,000 in this bank account.
Okay.
The caveat is,
Okay.
at the end of the day, you have a 24-hour period. At the end of the day, that $5,000 goes away. Boom. And then it'll be refilled again tomorrow with the 5,000, but it goes back to zero. So every single day you have a free fresh bank account with $5,000 in it. And then, but by the end of the day, if there's still 5,000, it's going to go to zero. There'll be a new 5,000 in there tomorrow. If it's at 3,000, it's going to go to zero, but there'll be another $5,000. If it's got $50 in it, the $50 is going to go away. So no matter what, it drains itself out, and then it refills up to 5,000. What would you guys do with that money, that 5,000?
Spend it.
Spend it, Jen. Spend it. Yeah.
So it's like different way you can. I'll say this is an investment. Is I'll go to the casino and spend the $5,000. But also, like, I'll do crazy stuff like invest in Bitcoin or invest like
But
it'll
you're gonna
be
take the money
dispersed.
out of it.
Yes.
Okay, and you're gonna do something with it. You're gonna take the money out of it and do something with it, right?
Yes,
Jerome,
it-
what would you do with it?
To an account.
I'm gonna spend it early, as early as I can in the day.
Like early in the day? Like
Yeah.
I will have it all 5,000 spent by 1 a.m. If it refills at midnight, I'm spending it by 1 a.m.
I get tiring to spend all that every day, so I'm gonna try and give myself some time.
Nice. Okay. Lisa, what would you do?
So I would, use what I could, not worry about the rest.
Okay.
It's going to be replenished. I will have it to come to tomorrow. So use what is necessary to carry on with life, and then be okay with that.
I would spend what I needed, but then I would, whatever was remaining, I would definitely reinvest in something. Like I would take, if I spent $1,000 that day, I would spend the other 4,000, put the other 4,000 in a high yield savings account or in an investment account or in something along those lines, so that it didn't just go like poof, it's gone, and that would start to eat at me. I think it'd start to eat away at me, knowing that I had this money that I let go of every single day.
And maybe give the rest away as well.
That's also a yearly salary of $1 million,
Well, you cannot give it to anybody else. That's it. That's the cap.
Oh. So, but you can reinvest it. So
Yes,
that's
you can reinvest. I mean, you have to spend it, but you can't just, hand it to Jen or what have you.
Okay.
Jen's got her own 5,000. So this $5,000 bank account is time, right?
Mhm.
Every day we are given 24 hours. We can do whatever we want with that 24 hours. And at the end of that 24 hours, it's gone and it refills the next day, right? Every single day. So that was quite a literal sort of comparison. If time is money and time is truly a limited resource, your day dwindles at the end of the day. Every single day, boom, gone, refilled. Boom, gone, refilled. Boom, gone, refilled. But how you spend it becomes very important when you start to think of it as money, right? We start to get like, oh no, I would do this with it. I would do that with it. But with our time, we don't think of it that way. We think of it as sort of an infinite resource. But the truth of the matter is, it's not. Each day goes and it's gone. You're not getting it back. So it brings up this concept of that I thought was really neat, of return on time investment. And thinking about, even if you think about your time, as money or as what have you, how do you literally spend? There's a reason we say that. How do you spend your time? What do you spend your time on? It becomes very important when you start to think of it as a limited resource. At least it does for me. So this is sort of in the time sense that do less comes in. It can be very important because we can use our time very wisely, and sometimes adding more stuff into it makes it a lot less productive. Anthony, I can't hear you, Anthony.
Well, there's also like time isn't the only resource too that's being factored into this. Like, even if you had more time, that doesn't mean you'll have more energy or more focus to spend on projects and tasks and other things. Like, you can have the 24 hours, but then I only have about 8 hours of gas in me to focus on like a project, and then I'm tired the rest of the time. I've expended myself, or I've invested a whole lot of energy in 1 or 2 hours versus spreading it out over 8 to 10 hours, which goes into a concept that I posted in the podcast episode I showed you, which was do less then obsess. Free up your time and then focus a lot of energy on a few things, very limited amount of things.
So as coaches, we have clients that come into us, come in, and they go, I don't know what to do. I want to do all these things, and they've got a laundry list. I want this, or they come in and they say, I'm so busy. What do we do? Oh, yes, we should take one at a time. I'm stacking. So the client that comes in and goes, well, when you say, what do you want to work on? And they give you a list of, well, this. How do we assist that client in doing less?
Well, I tend to ask them, okay, when do you want these things done? Because the when, if you have, 10 years to accomplish your laundry list of goals, okay, that's more reasonable than I want to do 10 goals in 1 month. Then we got to talk about priorities as the next step.
I think it becomes I think this is a space for coach. If you're doing it right as a coach, it's a little easy because you can go, well, we only have 1 hour. So what do you want to work on today? Right.
Yeah.
And that helps us really narrow that focus. That also shows you how important it is that question exists. Otherwise, we're going to be as scattered as our client. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as opposing to some people that think they're coaches, they will tell the client what should come first and what should come second, and they will try to use their best judgment on making that choice because of the emphasis a client has made. And this is where you're going to do less as a coach. You're going to sit back. You're going to invite the client to make a decision on what they want their focus to be for this next whatever time frame we're together. Do less. Get the client to do more.
I just realized something, that there's like a big assumption of a coaching session is 1 hour. Why is it that
Doesn't have to be.
I know it doesn't have to be, but like if I'm going devil's advocate, why don't I just have longer coaching sessions? Why?
I made the choice to make mine 30 minutes. Like that was in an effort to do less. And also because I found in shortening up my sessions, my clients come on the ball. Mm-hmm. They come prepared to work. They know they have a limited amount of time, and because of that, they come ready. And they're not going to waste a minute of that 30 minutes. And what's awesome is they're always surprised by how much they accomplish in that 30 minutes. And every one of them says, oh my gosh, I got so much done in 30 minutes. That was so worth it. Like and you'd be surprised. You'd think, oh, I need the hour. I need the hour and a half. I have to do a 4-hour session with my, intro session. I have to do a 2-hour session with my intro client. And I'm even shocked at how quickly and how much we can do when we know that the clock is ticking. Sort of puts makes us,
Makes us have focus, makes us have priority, and a lot of less baloney stuff going on. Yeah. I noticed that with even some couples that I worked with, because mine are normally about 80 minutes when I was working. And there's been a few of those when they needed a 30-minute session. And exactly like you said, they come in ready, willing, and able to make those adjustments and get focused. There's not a lot of baloney going on. You got to get down to business, brass tacks, really quick.
They do a lot of the thinking on their own. They come through it. Like they take a moment and they know, okay, I don't have a lot of time. So there's and it's a cool thing to see because there's a level of their own work, and it's not me doing less as a coach, right? I am sort of forcing them to figure these things out before they're sitting in front of me. Whereas if I give them all the time in the world, that means that a lot of my time is going to be spent moving through these areas that maybe we don't necessarily move through, or maybe they can figure out on their own.
So now, okay, so we're talking about reducing the amount of time, which helps us stay on the ball and keep our focus in check. How do we know then when I say we, how does the client figure this out, or how do we figure this out when we do less? What things we should focus on? How do we sort of determine? Because sometimes you can focus on the wrong thing. You can.
Whoa. Wait, hold
Yeah.
on. What makes you say that, Anthony? What is the wrong thing? How do you decide that?
So it's a matter of prioritization. So I'm thinking about it in the workspace right now, where I've got a list of things I need to do and I only have like an hour to do them. I can definitely choose the wrong thing in the sense that one project is far more important than some other project. And me and Brooke have had this conversation before. Well, she will inform me your priorities are wrong. This is the more important thing, Anthony. You're kind of going off on like a tangent.
Or I'll be like, why are you doing that? Delegate that to Jen now.
Yeah.
So
I always tell them, give me more to do.
So in the grander scheme of things, when a client is focusing on things to do, he's got a limited amount of time, or they got a limited amount of time, and they have only so many options. What is the best way that they can figure out what is most important to them?
So I can give you a couple of the things I do in terms of like when I'm in a workspace or when I'm and being somebody with ADHD, you learn very, I guess, young when you have this, or at some point, that prioritizing and having a forefront priority list in your brain becomes very important, because if you don't, you're not accomplishing anything. You're all over, you're looking left and going that way, and it's just when you gotta stay on track. So there's a few things, tools I use, a few things that I really and I did a matrix for this once where it was like I'll have to remember exactly what's on each line, but I asked myself, I try to long-term think. That's one of the things that I really try to do, is I try to think, okay, if I'm in a business space, if I'm in a space like here, I might be working on a project and go, okay, well, I'm the one that knows how to do this, so I'm going to do it. But if I take the time to train somebody else, it might be a little more of my time now, but I'm going to free up this much time, all of the time to never have to do that again. Even though it essentially sort of is a bit of a time suck and a little, draining in the beginning. That's what training is. We're training, Misha. Welcome to training, but training takes, it's everybody working, doing extra work and investing their extra work and extra time in training somebody else, with the knowing and understanding that this training is going to be a return on time investment later. Because by training you today and spending the time to do that today, later I'm going to have you to do it, and I'm not going to have to anymore. And now I've got another human being capable of doing that. And it can be, I think we as people often get stuck in I'm the only one that can, I'm the only one that can do it right, I'm the only one that does. But if you're the only one that can, there's a few things that are horribly wrong with that, because if something happens to you, you have just, really screwed up a whole, if you're working for everybody else around you, because you're the only one that can do it, and now they got to scramble and they don't know, and now you've left a serious problem. And if you're the only one that can do it, then you also are probably, there's something going on. You might be insecure. There's a lot of things going on there, because truthfully, one of the things that Jerome, have I always said, always be training your replacement. Not because you are not going to be there, not because you're not going to be working, but because you're going to move up, and you're not going to you want somebody that can do those things for you. And it's long-term thinking. That is truly long-term thinking, because it might be really quick and easy for you to do that, and it might take an hour for you, 5 minutes here versus an hour to train somebody on something, but that hour is going to come back in, hundreds and thousands. So
how does this factor into sort
knowing
of your clients prioritizing correctly?
I mean, one of the questions you could ask them is, do you have to do that?
Mhm.
Is there somebody else that can do that?
Well, that's
Is there something
leading.
you want to do?
Asking if there's somebody else, that's the leading side.
That's leading, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you
Right.
sticking to, tell me about that. Tell me about what you have to do there. How does that serve you? Is there anything else that would serve you better in that space? So asking those questions more generically, but absolutely.
I think one of the cool questions that came up, and I dropped it in the CLCI live chat, was, and I just thought this was kind of neat. And it's less about specifically prioritizing, but to prioritize to a goal. You got somebody coming in with a million things, or they don't know what to work on, or they're focused on something. I think a great first question for a client is, at your eulogy, what do you want people to be talking about? What do you want people to say you have accomplished in your life? And that would, for me, boom, as a client, I'm going to start to think, okay, wait, that takes the focus on all these like little things that we're wasting our time with. And you go really quickly, for me, goes laser focus to, okay, wait, what am I working on? Why am I wasting my time with this? I thought that was a really smart question. I think it was worded slightly different, but imagine 3 people eulogizing you at your funeral. What would they say about you? What do you hope they would say about you?
I'm not going to be around for that, so I don't.
Who cares? It's not gonna bother me.
Another cool question that was popped in there that also might help with this prioritizing is, think about the roles in your life. What do you have to do to fill that role, and what don't you have to do? And you can start to weed those things out and start to really prioritize. I just remembered, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix, and I made a sort of knockoff of it, and I can share it again. It's I'm sure it's posted on our website. One side of the matrix says critical, the other side of the matrix says important. And when you use it, if critical and important, at the highest point come together, everything in the box that is critical and important is due. Everything that is critical but unimportant to you, delegate. Don't do that. Everything that is not critical, but is still important to you, you can delay it. Do it later. And anything that's in the box that is neither critical or important, get rid of it. Delete it. You don't need it. And that was, I think, it was just a very efficient tool. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix because Eisenhower was known to use it all through his presidency to figure out how to task manage. So it's such a simple thing to do that, right? To break it down. Another tool that we use for folks who have ADHD, and I'm talking way too much, is we can make lists that have like 20 things on them or 30. But the best thing to do, at least for somebody who has ADHD, is to only have a list of 3. You're not allowed more than 3 things on that list. You cannot add anything to it until those 3 things are accomplished. And it makes you sort of push everything out and just focus on the 3 and get those done. And that's another tool that I use to focus with. All right, done talking. It's your turn. You guys, it's all you. I'm going to leave now. Bye.
I like what Lisa had brought up earlier about the coach does less potentially to achieve more. I think that's a really valuable piece, because when I first got certified and didn't really know what coaching fully was, I thought I had to do so much more to coach. And I actually learned, I have to pull back from what I want to do instinctually. I have to calm down. I have to relax. I have to hold this space for the client to do the work. I get to facilitate a space for the client to do the work. I mean, that was not at all what I thought. And that's an amazing part of being a coach.
Also, when we say do less to achieve more, the coach isn't achieving anything. Like, there's no personal achievement that's happening as a coach. So, like, you don't have to do a whole lot. Now, your client, they're the one who's achieving things, having to do things, and possibly doing less things to achieve that. But you, as a coach, there's not a whole lot that you need to do. Other than get training at CertifiedLifeCoachInstitute.com.
Thank you.
But yeah, like, it's less work than you realize when you first start out.
Yep.
I know that's a critical part of when they're reviewing your submissions for your PCC, right? At least in what I've heard from everyone's experience, Dan. I don't know if I've heard Lisa speak about it, but they're checking in to see that you are doing 20 to 80, right? 20% speaking, 80% listening. So I know that's a critical part when it comes to looking to get your credentials. So, and kind of like Jen was mentioning, it is something that I feel like for most of us, it sounds easy at first, but when you start coaching, you kind of think that that's maybe the purpose of a coach is to speak as much as possible to help your client get past what it is that they want to get past. But sometimes setting that silence and letting your client do the work is going to be, I would say most of the time, is going to be the most powerful way to actually conduct a coaching session.
And moving towards MCC, it's even less. They want you to speak even less. Like, it's going to sound a little pompous where I'm going right now. And I don't mean to be pompous, but I have this grand way of reflecting back to the client what they've shared with me. It's a lot of words. It's like, no, don't speak that many words, even if you are reflecting what that client has said. By this time at MCC level, we have great expectations that you're listening. You don't have to prove it anymore. So less is, even as we go through, if you will, our rankings, less is going to become even more important as you go down. The quality of your coaching increases based on the less words you use, because you're using more impactful interaction versus the proof that you've heard. I guess that's what I would say. So definitely less is better, impactful, that you are really listening and the challenging those questions, letting the client do the more, that more work is on them. But in the end, with you giving them permission to be more in the session, they are also working towards being less, because then they're not overworking themselves. They're really focusing in on where and what they want to do as well.
I've gotten to such an advanced level in my coaching, I only say one word. The rest is all nonverbal communication.
I'll say this too, Anthony. We're working with people in our lunch and learns. One of the biggest things that they'll do is they'll come to us with this like verbose, very wordy, like, who is your client? Well, they're going to give you all these big words, and it gets really overblown. Like, it gets really, really big, and a lot. And so one of the things that we'll do is whittle it down to the simplest terms of, okay, not only to the simplest terms of one client, not a billion, we're niching you to one client, but then we're going to take it to those clients' thoughts in the simplest terms. And if that client at the end of the day is saying, I'm not a good mom, or saying, I'm going to be stuck here forever. So simple, these words, right? But you'll have a coach saying, I coach people through midlife transitions, who are feeling unsatisfied, and then they'll it gets so, and it's like, really, all that person needs to hear is that, no, you don't have to be stuck forever. And it's taking all of this overthinking over, and we're saying, no, whittle it down. Do
Also,
less.
in those
less.
luncheons, they sometimes will say elevator pitches that are like kind of simple and sweet. There was one example of like, I want to coach millennials who feel lost and can't find their purpose. Okay, that's not a lot. That's not a lot spoken wise, but that is a lot of people to try to market to. That is
Do less.
a lot of work. You do less by saying more and being more specific, because you're lessening the amount of clients you're actually having to try to market yourself to. And eventually,
another reason that
Yeah.
we whittle it down to one client, because you have coaches thinking, well, I have to do all these things to be successful. I have to be on social media. I have to be on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have to do, I have to be everywhere, and they get overwhelmed, and they don't start, right? They don't. And we say, one client, where's your client? What are they doing? Where can you get into there? And what do you have to say to, like, no, you don't have to do all of this. Do less. Do what is only necessary for you to reach your client. And where is that client? That's where you need to be. Ignore everything else. Don't waste your time. And start there. And that's a whole level. And I think it's a big thing. I think a lot of new coaches want to do everything. They feel like they have to do everything. They feel like they have to be everywhere. And they get so afraid of doing less. They don't even start.
Yeah, that more can be definitely overwhelming and preventative of moving forward. So do less.
Do less and attract more clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that brings up a good point, that doing more can be debilitating sometimes. And I think that's where that phrase comes up, one step at a time. Doing one small thing, doing less, eventually, I think, can help you get past, again, that hurdle of maybe being debilitized by the fact that you're looking at the larger chunk of the pie as opposed to just taking one small slice.
I think of it as like, have you ever played when you're a kid, did you ever play the Floor is Lava?
Yes.
So like,
I played it as an old woman, not as a kid. I played as a kid.
but like, if you think of like your goal being like, my goal is to get to the kitchen, but the floor is lava, right? I have to take it if I'm actually going to get scorched by the ground, I have to figure out each individual step. Like, and I have to get from this chair to that chair before I can even think about my next, that's how it is. It's like lily pads, you have to do one lily pad at a time, and you cannot get to the next one until you've gotten to this one. And we often will get like distracted by all of these other things. But if we just focus on the next step, like Jerome said, floor is lava.
That's a question kind of that I've encountered in some of my coaching sessions, where their overarching goal, they're like, there's a lot of steps that I got to do. There's a lot of things I have to do. What should I do? And it's like, okay, what's the next step? The next step is whatever step you take. I don't know if there's a correct, are you asking me if is there a correct order of steps? Because then we can do coaching to figure out what is the correct order. But if there's not really a correct order and it's all arbitrary, the next step is whatever is the next thing you do. So, do you want to try to find something to pick and go from there? And a lot of clients seem to think that this is me taking my coaching hat off and me putting on my Anthony hat, my Anthony beanie, is that people seem to want to think there is a ultimately correct order in which you do things. That is absolutely not the case. The correct order in which you do things is the order in which things get done. It's difficult to articulate, I guess.
But no,
you have to start somewhere, and then you just keep going.
It's like thinking of the world linearly. Like but the world is not a linear place. Ultimately, it's really not. But we often think of everything. unless you're non-linear like I am, most people think in a very like linear fashion, A plus B equals C. But the truth of the reality is, no, there's way more ways to go about things, and probably more than you can imagine. And when you think you've exhausted it, there's probably still another way. You just haven't found it yet. And so, such a beautiful point. There's not necessarily a correct way. The correct way is the way that things get done. Like that's whatever that is. And I really appreciate that because it frees up that the self-loathing that can happen, or the worry and concern that I could do something wrong, or I have done something wrong, or in the wrong order, or at the wrong time.
Which also, you will always find when you have done the thing, you'll always reflect back and be like, I should have done it this way. But that's only ever going to be obvious to you when you're at the end already. You wouldn't have ever thought about that at the start of it, because you wouldn't have ever started it to begin with, because you would have kept thinking about it. You only tend to realize that once you're already done.
And this also brings a big point. What is the big verb? Do in this, right? Do. If you're not doing anything, then you're already doing less. So you don't really need this.
It's also kind of funny that people will ask others, what should I do and how should I do it? And frankly, everyone does it differently.
There are moments though that I will go, what should I do? And mind you, I know I'm going to make the decision myself, or I'm just genuinely in one of those exhausted states where, and whatever it is I have to do is completely just at this point arbitrary. Like I'm like, I have to. So what should I just do right now? I'm too tired to think of it myself. Just tell me. I don't want to think. What should I have for dinner? I don't care. I don't want to think about it. I've been thinking about everything else all day, and thinking about dinner right now is almost impossible.
That's when you, Brooke, do the flip a coin test to other people. Just like flip a coin.
And those things are, but ultimately, if I am asking somebody what should I do, I'm getting their opinion, but I'm going to ultimately make my own decision in it, right? I'm going to hear what they say and see what resonates with me and what doesn't, and take from their opinion what I find valuable and discard what
that doesn't work well in the coaching space, though. Like your client can't be like, "What? Just tell me what should I do?"
No.
And you, the coach,
that
can't be
goes
like,
into the do less.
"Well, here's."
Like, when we think we have coaches that they come in and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't take my second Adderall. That's why I'm talking so much. Sorry about that." So they come in though, and they're like I can't, or I have to know everything about all of this, right? I have to be this wealth of, I'm a life coach. I have to have all of my shit together. I have to have done everything because nobody's going to take me seriously. And what if I screw up somebody else's life? You get to do less. You don't have to do that. You don't have to you're not bringing your knowledge to the table outside of being a coach. And boy, is that nice. Like when I started doing coaching sessions instead of consulting sessions, like when we were consultancy, marketing consultancy, had that business. What a Jerome, Anthony, nonstop stressful business. Because we are doing the do. Right?
It's nerve-wracking because I'm responsible.
We're responsible
for the knowledge I'm using.
And then you do a coaching session. And you're like, that's it.
I don't even know.
Hours up, and I'm like, okay, it's fantastic. Oh my God.
I don't need to know.
Like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, I need to know how to coach, but other than that, I don't need to know a goddamn thing. That's up to the client. Hey, explain the context to me. Tell me your side of things. Tell me how you want to get this done. That's it. I don't need to know anything. I'm like, John,
you don't know. It's better you know less in that situation. So again, it's one of those situations where coaches do less. You have the amazing gift of the opportunity to not have to bring all of this to the table outside of knowing how to properly coach, and you will get trained at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com.
And,
I always laugh when we plug ourselves because we don't do this to plug ourselves, but in the end, yeah, we need to plug ourselves too.
Okay, so to look at it from like a business level, that is entirely what our business model is. It's doing less and achieving more.
Mhm.
Not to toot our own horns, but other coaching institutions tend to do more and then ends up costing the student more time, more
More
energy.
time, more money, more
They're not
everything.
achieving more though. They're still getting the 60 hours of training
Mhm.
to an ACC, whereas us, the superior life coaching institute, we understand that this can be done in 3 days and you get the same 60 hours and it costs you less.
Well,
That's-
6 days.
We're getting very valuable time.
Well, yeah, 6 days. Total.
The other thing too, the amazing thing too, with regard to that is, I mean, if you look at our marketing, even like look at meta marketing with this, we do this live. We know we have to show up for an hour, right? But this is a way for us to do less, honestly. And I'm just going to share why. So we know we all have to be here. We all have to have it. We talk about a subject for an hour, and you'll all show. If this was something where we like had to set aside, we're going to film, we're going to do, we choose to do a live stream because we know that it's more forgiving in this. So we can be off the cuff. We can be real. We can do this hour. Then we'll take this and we will use it in a ton of different places. We will chop it up. We will reutilize it. And all of that is so that we can do less, so that we are not so overtaxed with all of this production, all of these have-tos. And it really is taking your time and figuring out, okay, how can we make this more effective, more efficient, and also be something that happens with regularity? And so we built it in to our system. This is part of our week and we know it. And it does a tremendous amount of good for us as a company, but we've done it in a way that is plausible and isn't a time suck for everybody. Everybody can find an hour. And if you can't, that's okay. We'll get somebody else in. It'll be okay.
We're patting ourselves on the back now.
No, I know we just
I wanted to ask a question then on kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. When is more?
never.
Never.
When it kisses and hugs.
No, have far less of that. I was going to say, at least in the coaching space, education, probably. Just being able to be open to learning more is probably never harmful unless it actually impacts the time you're going out there and coaching. Like if all I ever did was learn about coaching and never did coaching, then
yes, as long as you're doing the doing.
But that's one aspect that I think of where always educate yourself, always be on the ball, try to train more, understand more things. That's my personal opinion, I guess. I don't have anything to back that up with.
I agree and disagree at the same time because yes,
I want to hear your agreements, not the disagreements. But continue.
But yes, I agree that constantly seeking more knowledge is valuable. But at the same time, I can find myself seeking too much and overwhelming myself. And I literally have to go back to what I'm consuming as far as like coaching content and focus on one book, one podcast, one thing at a time, because I get overwhelmed with all of this different, coach knowledge, and I don't actually retain any of it. So I have to streamline it one thing at a time. So agree.
Although you'd be surprised in that learning that you have done, because back in the day, I did so much. And all of a sudden it would start coming out of my mouth. I'm like, where did that come from? I have no idea. Looking behind me, where did that? It's just because the right client comes in front of you, that knowledge will at some point come out and be present for that experience with that client. So yes, it can be overwhelming. Yes, take your focus, but also, even when you have done those other behaviors, they're still usable, is all I want to say.
And I'm speaking more for the people who get complete.
No, but I really, before we get there though, I want to take that though concept. When you were saying more education, blah, 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 we can apply that to, or more learning more. There is a point where we can be learning, asking too much of our client from our clients, and we're in that space of tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. That can become, that can go, that can be too much. There's a point, but it's knowing the line between, you know, okay, I do when to keep digging and learning, and when enough is enough, and to, you know, start to shift the questioning to a different direction. And I think that there's a I guess a knowledge there that becomes important.
It's the point of diminishing returns where the client, they've said everything really relevant where you're able to move the conversation forward and you don't need to keep going.
It's a ROI. ROI is always the focus in a session. That's why we ask, what do you want to work on? How will you know you achieve that? You know, those beginning questions, the end questions, because that allows that focus for the client to realize that return on investment that they've participated with.
We talked about doing less to achieve more, and that got me thinking about.
Oh no, say it isn't so.
Yeah, I got thinking about when is it okay to do less to achieve less?
I've done it when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And you've got too many things going on, and you just go, this is enough, or I'm okay with less because I want to live. I closed an entire business because so that all of us, Jerome, myself, Anthony, we could do less to achieve less, and be okay. And we were all okay with that because we wanted lives.
It's inverse because we were able to achieve more as a result of that, but the intent at the time was to do less to achieve less, because sometimes just having achievements for their own sake, it's not going to get you anything, really.
Well, it's not. Is it going to be something of value? Is it going to be something? The reality is, at that moment, we could have been making more money and but ultimately, the preference was to free up time, put our focus at CLCI, and be able to be successful in our personal lives and be successful in our business lives, and that was enough. Like what we had was enough.
Which can lead into coaching too. Is what you actually want to achieve what you want to achieve? Because I've had some times throughout the course of a coaching conversation where my client realized, I don't want this goal. Like I said that I wanted this goal at the beginning of the session, and talking about it, I don't want it. It feels like something I have to do though.
Yeah.
And so then that leads to a whole nother conversation.
We have 5 minutes left, guys. So
are you saying when you just told that story about, closing up the other business, that essentially you decided to want less so you could have more?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Want less to have more. I love it.
I was of the mindset of I want less to have less, but.
And it was, and it's not to say that there wasn't a hard transition. It certainly was, and it was one that ultimately, honestly, I am still paying off to some degree. Just one last thing that came up, but it was a rough transition. It was hard to say goodbye to those clients. Not that we didn't care, not that we didn't, and it was, but it was like simultaneous relief and stress, but then it was, now that I'm through it, it's like I'm so grateful for it. It was hard at the time. I cried. You go through the whole transition. But it was worth it. And when I say I wanted less, I wanted less there, but I got less in other places, or got more in other places. Mm-hmm. It's that I reprioritized my time, truthfully, and I found that I would rather spend my time enjoying the fruits of my labor than just creating more labor.
Bro, could you imagine, like,
Oh
as
my
soon as we
God.
get done with the live, I was like, okay, we got another 4 hours of
I'm gonna
work.
jump off the balcony now. Are you kidding me? No.
Absolutely suck. I can't imagine doing that again.
It's funny that this came up. I just had this conversation with my friend today.
So how about this for a final question? Is there something that you wouldn't mind doing less of?
Well, of course, but wait, to achieve more, hold on, there's got to be more to it than that.
That's it. That will ultimately get you more.
Okay.
To eat less food so that I can have more. No, it's just less. I want to have less things, less body fat, less high cholesterol,
More
less
health.
weight. More health. There you go.
Probably longer life.
Well, I don't care about that, but you know.
I'll pick the low hanging fruit. Less social media, and that might be
Ah,
coming my
yep.
way soon because Twitter is annoying now at this point. Thanks, he who shall not be named. So yeah, for the sake of more
Yeah.
fulfillment in life, for more focus towards the things that actually matter, and I guess on the flip side, less distraction. Less distraction means more time to do again the things that you want to do.
Mhm.
Genuinely.
Yeah, I second that, Jerome. Less social media and also less focus or attention given to things that I have literally no control over, and more focus on the stuff that I do have control over, which is the way I show up in the world. I want more time there, less time on other people, other things. Lisa?
I was thinking about it. I think all of that is, pretty right on. Less what I've been calling today, addiction to having to hover over everything, and more, off time, more time to do the things that, I moved out to Colorado. I haven't gone any hiking. I haven't done anything fun. I've taken little trips, but not actual vacation, to actually set aside some time for an actual vacation. Those kinds of things. So yeah, less addictive hovering and feeling the need to be available to everyone at a drop of a hat.
I'm gonna less, and it's something I'm already working on. I'm just gonna continue on the way. Less stressing about the immediate moment, like less being in this, that worry or catastrophizing, or just less of that, and more of knowing that it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. All is well.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of more breathing in the why don't need to freak out over, unless it's really freak outable. Don't stop freaking out about the little things. Don't sweat the small stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So that I can have more peace. That's it.
Wrap it up. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, take our classes so you can learn to do less and achieve more as a coach. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you guys. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and remember, we're on Wednesdays. So Wednesday at 4, we'll be back next week Do you guys want to know what the subject is next week? Do you want me to-
Yes.
Yes,
And
please.
while you check, I want to let everyone know to share this with someone you think is doing too much. Maybe this will help them out.
Ah, yes.
Nicely done.
Yeah. Good segue.
Add another thing to their list of things to do, which is
Oh my God, there he is. There's the Anthony. I was laughing because Jen was saying yes and no. That's usually Anthony's thing.
well, it's my thing. When people counter what I have to say, then it's just like, no, don't. Just a yes. That's it.
Yeah.
So now we're going into a series of where I just put one word in for our topics. So next week's word is expectation.
Awesome.
Okay. Love it.
Ooh,
Topic.
nice transition into Christmas. There's tons of expectations.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's,
You won't be there next week. All right.